I've never been very popular, never at any point. I mean, this is not fake modesty, but true. I've always had somewhat of a following, but not spectacular. When I started working as a comedian, I never set out to create any kind of image at all. I mean, I just did those jokes that I thought were funny, and then would pick up the paper and read, he's a little man plagued by machines and the failure of human relations and stuff like, you know, but I don't even think of that. It's never a choice you make, a conscious choice. I mean, I just was out there trying to get laughs. It's only recently that I've been trying to think in terms of getting a little more content, using the humor to express a little more meaningful things, and most people have felt that that's been a good trend, though some have not. Some have felt that it's better just to get out there and make them laugh and not to bother with thinking about controlling the material to say something. What happens is you're shaving or walking down the street or something, and something just occurs to you seemingly at random. I don't know why it occurs, and I can never, you know, really trace it very accurately, but it's all very instinctive. I mean, there's very little analysis of the process, or very little thought about it. It's just that some things, it's all feeling and non-cerebral. You know, some stuff just feels funny and feels right, and some stuff doesn't. And my experience has always been that if I am faithful to how I feel about something, I'm right enough times for it to be successful.
What does this say?
Can't you read that?
I can't read this. What's this? Act natural?
No, it says, please put $50,000 into this bag and act natural.
It does say act natural.
So I am pointing a gun at you.
That looks like gub. That doesn't look like gun.
No, that's gun.
No, that's gub. That's a B.
No, see, that's an N. It's G-U-N. It's gun.
George, would you step over here a moment, please? What does this say?
Please put $50,000 into this bag and act natural. What's act?
Act.
Does this look like gub or gun?
Gun.
See?
But what's act mean?
Act. A-C-T. Act natural. Please put $50,000 into this bag. Act natural. It's not...
Oh, I see. This is a holdup.
Yes.
May I see your gun? Well, you'll have to have this note initialed by one of our vice presidents before I can give you any money.
See, I'm in a rush.
What?
I'm in a rush.
I'm sorry, but that's our policy.
My experience has always been, both writing for the theater or television or films, and also for the New Yorker, that the toughest thing is getting started. Once you get the thing started properly, it kind of spins out of its own volition. The toughest writing is going from nothing to the first draft. That's really hard, because you never know if you have anything or not. You know, it may be an idea and you find you've written a quarter of a page and the whole idea is over. You know, so it's the anxiety is going from nothing to getting a first draft, no matter how sloppy the first draft is. And then I keep rewriting it till I get it perfect. But it's so much easier to rewrite it than it is to write it. You know, there's no comparison. You know, once you have 5 or 6 pages of prose in front of you, and just to sit and work on it and change sentences and develop things and cut things, and, you know, that's a cinch. But what's difficult is when you have an idea, you know, getting the first rush down on paper. I was in Europe many years ago with Ernest Hemingway. I remember Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald came home from their wild New Year's Eve party. It was April. Scott had just written Great Expectations, and Gertrude Stein and I read it, and we said it was a good book, but there was no need to have written it, because Charles Dickens had already written it. And we laughed over it, and Hemingway punched me in the mouth. And that winter, we went to Spain to see Manaletti fight. And he looked to me 18, and Gertrude Stein said no, he was 19, but that he only looked 18. And I said sometimes a boy of 18 will look 19, whereas other times a 19-year-old can easily look 18. And that's the way it is with a true Spaniard. And we laughed over that, and Gertrude Stein punched me in the mouth. Naturally, if you're writing stuff that's supposed to be amusing, I really anything, but certainly comedy, the more information you have, the better off you are, just in terms of information. So the problem with reading now is that, you know, people do approach it as a discipline and a chore, and consequently they don't want to do it. And I feel the same way about it myself. If it's not a joyful thing to do, then I don't think it's worth doing. I'm going to buy you these books, I think, because I think you should read them, you know, instead of that cat book.
That's pretty serious stuff there.
Yeah, because I'm obsessed with death, I think. It's a big subject with me, yeah. I have a very pessimistic view of life. You should know this about me if we're going to go out. You know, I feel that life is divided up into the horrible and the miserable. Those are the two categories, you know. The horrible would be like, I don't know, terminal cases, you know, and blind people, and cripples. I don't know how they get through life. It's amazing to me, you know. And the miserable is everyone else. So when you go through life, you should be thankful that you're miserable, because you're very lucky to be miserable. I was a comic book reader exclusively till I was, I would say about 17 years old. Never read a book, never. I never did homework or read a book, and couldn't concentrate or get interested in them as a child. And then as I got older and started dating more intelligent women, the demands were greater. So I read more, and some of the stuff I liked, and a lot of it I could never really get with. I mean, I do feel that you're supposed to enjoy reading more than you actually do enjoy it as a general rule. But it is very important as a tool. But it's also a trap. And I've done this myself, and I've tried to get away from it, but it's a tough thing. I find people that are making films, for instance, comic films, they cannibalize media. So you see films by various comic filmmakers, and they're about other films, they're satires on other films, and there's an enormous amount of reliance on not direct life experience, but media experience. I did that in Love and Death with Russian literature. The same thing happens in writing, that you have a tendency to rely not on your life observations, but on constantly gleaning things from other books that you've read. So you have to be very careful with your reading. You know, it's, you have to, you know, really be severe with yourself about how much faith you put in it, and not let it be a substitute for real life experience. Apparently, I'm in some way fixated on things happening in childhood being meaningful or funny in relation to the rest of your life. But I do notice that all the time. I don't know what the significance of it is.
My parents come from Brooklyn, which is the heart of the old world. When I was a little boy, I wanted a dog desperately. And we had no money. I was a tiny kid. And my parents couldn't get me a dog because we just didn't have the money. So they got me, instead of a dog, they told me it was a dog. They got me an ant. And I didn't know any better, you know. I thought it was a dog. I was a dumb kid. I called it Spot. I trained it, you know. I'm coming home late one night, and Sheldon Finkelstein tried to bully me. was with me. And I said, kill. And Sheldon stepped on my dog.
Well, I was always a non-intellectual, and still am. I mean, I was a kid that never read at all, and all I did was play ball. And I was lucky because I was a good athlete. So I played basketball and baseball mostly, and all sports, track and skating, everything. And I was a good athlete as a kid and would play ball from 8 in the morning till 6 at night every day. And, you know, it's a very joyous experience because you don't think, you know, and you don't have to face up to anything. It's strictly the body. I just think it's very, very beautiful. And even now, I think there's more of a thrill at a good sporting event that you can never, ever achieve, at least I can't, in the theater or films or any place. There's just something that happens when you see a great basketball game or a great World Series game or a great prize fight or something. It's everything theater should be, but isn't. It's got all the elements of conflict and rooting interest and not knowing the outcome. So I still find sports preferable to me than theater or reading or films or anything. I mean, I guess if I had my life to live over, you know, I would like to do something probably physical. I mean, maybe be a ballet dancer or something, or an athlete, but something physical rather than mental. There's a lot of films I like. I mean, I like Marx Brothers films and all those Chaplin films, you know, and comic films that I grew up on. But generally, I like those films for the performers in them. I'm a great fan of Bob Hope's. And right through the 50s, he made about a dozen films, you know, that are full of funny things. None of them are very profound or anything, but he's enormously funny for me. And I was influenced by him when I was growing up.
There were tough kids in my class. There was a kid in my class named Floyd. The black leather jacket, and the boots, and zipper, acne and everything. You know. Floyd used to sit in the dumb row in school. You know. Vegetable mentality, you know. I made friends with him years later when we got older. I removed a thorn from his paw, you know?
I always wanted to be a playwright. I mean, when I started being a comedy writer, and I wrote for television, thinking I would write for TV for some years, and then gradually evolve into a playwright, try and write some plays. And that was a long-range goal of mine. Again, I was only 17, 18, 19 years old at the time. And then, one evening, I saw Mort Saul in a nightclub and thought that he was just the best thing that I ever saw. And it was inspiring to me, and I thought, gee, that might be an area that I could get into. You know, I think I could be amusing, and so I started doing it just on a mild lark. And I was successful beyond my interest in it immediately. But I found when I was a stand-up comedian, you know, I wasn't temperamentally suited to it. I mean, I was nervous, and I didn't like the work. It was very difficult at first. You know, the problem for a young comedian is if you're doing original kinds of things, which I felt I was at the time. I mean, I was not one of those comedians who came out and did really the same type of material you'd seen all those other comics do at that time. It was sort of original, and I was a complete unknown. So audiences didn't know how to take me, and they laughed, but they couldn't get with it that much. I mean, it was very tenuous there for a while. Now, when I come out, I get an enormous amount of undeserved appreciation. The earliest jokes that I wrote were real crude, stupid, you know, one-line gags that were published in newspaper columns and things that were real, the kinds of things you'd read as fillers in the Reader's Digest or something. Then the first play that I wrote, Don't Drink the Water, was real terrible play, and it was just a group of 1 million gags all strung together. My second play, Play It Again, Sam, was better than that, but not much. When I first started writing prose, I wrote very much in the style of S.J. Perelman. It was almost impossible for any writer of comedy to have a comic vision that was unlike Perelman's, because he was such a dominating force. I mean, just so strong. And when I first brought things up to the New Yorker magazine, though they published them, every now and then they would say, well, there's a paragraph in here that's very much like Perelman, could you change that? And, you know, and I would, and then what I tried to do, in an effort to move away from Perelman, which I did very quickly, I mean, after the first 3 or 4 pieces up there, or maybe even soon after the first 2 pieces, I tried to simplify my style. And it was then started to move closer to Benchley, to that general style. And that's where it is now. It's much broader than Perelman, much less literate, and much closer to Benchley. Now, the difference as I see it is Perelman is hilariously funny in an extremely complex way. And Benchley is extremely simple, broad and simple and light. I mean, Benchley is sort of like a souffle. It's just the lightest kind of stuff. And Perelman is very, very complex and much more hostile. So when I started getting into writing for the New Yorker more, I felt that what I wanted to do was be broader and try and write things that would make the reader laugh immediately. You know, that he wouldn't have to read a paragraph and get involved or anything, that from the first sentence or the second sentence on, it would be amusing and just go from there and try and keep it as light as I could. When I was about 14 years old, I got quite accidentally some New Orleans jazz records, you know, Sidney Bechet, Bunk Johnson, things like that. And a great affection for that kind of music germinated. And then I wanted to play the soprano saxophone like Bechet, so I bought one and taught myself to play it. And I just played in with records, and then I switched over to the clarinet and played for years strictly by myself with records. And then when I was out in San Francisco, Turk Murphy, who's got a wonderful jazz band out there, asked me to sit in with him, which I did, reluctantly. And I started to like playing with live human beings. And did it more and more, and gradually formed a band in New York, and we've been playing for many years now. But, you know, I just don't practice as much as I should, and it's always a source of great guilt to me. But I'm very dedicated, very dedicated. I mean, the guilt, if I don't practice, is so enormous that it's better to practice under horribly trying conditions than to wake up the next morning knowing I didn't practice. The first film I ever wrote in my life was a thing called What's New Pussycat, which I was paid to write, and I wrote it as funny as I could at the time. I'd never had any film experience whatsoever before that, and then I watched them make it into a film, and I didn't like at all what I saw. My feeling was, even at that time, I don't know how old I was, in my 20s, I thought that I could direct it more accurately for my own needs, you know, for my own aims with that particular script. And I felt that they overdid everything. They swallowed the thing up with money and overproduced it and were heavy-handed and didn't, you know. So I decided that I would never work in films again unless I could direct. And I immediately went back on that the next year when someone offered me a small role in Casino Royale. And I did a tiny, I don't know, maybe in that picture for 3 minutes. I thought that was a unredeemingly moronic enterprise from every point of view. I mean, I never saw the film, but I did see the dailies as they were shooting them. It was a handbook on how not to make a film. And consequently, I think they lost a lot of money with that movie, and very deservedly. And then I really was soured on films and decided that I just wouldn't work in it unless I could direct the film. And a few years later, they let me direct, take the money and run. And at that stage of my life, I was strictly surviving in terms of jokes. That was the one thing I knew I could write, were good jokes. And so Take the Money and Run is a compendium of jokes and sight gags.
Name, please.
John Q. Public. P-U-B-L-I-C.
Mr. Public, have you had any experience working in an office before?
Yes, I have.
What kind of office was it?
Rectangular.
Have you ever had any experience in running a high-speed digital electronic computer?
Yes, I have.
Where?
My aunt has one.
And what does your aunt do?
I can't recall.
You said before you worked in an office. Did you deal in products or services?
Products.
Is this something found in the home?
No, it's not. It's one down and 9 to go.
Is this product edible?
No, I'm afraid it wasn't. I think our time has run out, and I'm sorry to say you haven't guessed my occupation, so I'm going to flip all the cards and tell you exactly what I used to do. I used to manufacture escalator shoes for people who were nauseous in elevator shoes. I'm sorry you didn't actually get my occupation, but you did win $10, and I want to thank you very much. Better luck next time. You're a good sport.
My problem with that film when I did it was that I didn't have enough jokes. I didn't know how many one needed for a film. And so there were dead spots in it. And I was in the editing room for a long time, constantly shifting stuff around, trying to you know, minimize the, minimize, don't I? The dead spots. That was a real problem for me. And then in Bananas, I figured I would know what to do. And so I wrote a lot more jokes and filmed a lot more jokes. And there are much fewer dead spots in Bananas because of it. And when I got to Sleeper, then I started to develop more, you know, to feel the need for more of a story. And I carried that on through Love and Death and into Annie Hall, where I started to sacrifice jokes a lot and go for story values.
Hi. Hi.
Hi. Oh, hi. Hi.
Well, bye.
You play very well.
Oh, yeah? So do you. Oh, God, what a dumb thing to say, right? I mean, you say it, you play well, and then right away I have to say you play well. Oh, God, Annie. Well, oh, well. La-di-da, la-di-da, la-la, yeah.
You want a lift?
Oh, why? You got a car?
No, I was going to take a cab.
Oh, no, I have a car.
You have a car? So, I don't understand. If you have a car, so then why did you say, do you have a car, like you wanted a lift?
Geez, I don't know. I wasn't, I got this VW out there. What a jerk, yeah. Would you like a lift?
Sure. Which way are you going?
Me? Downtown.
I'm going uptown.
Oh, well, you know, I'm going uptown, too.
No, wait a minute, you just said you were going downtown.
Yeah, well, but I can...
I'm sorry.
I can go uptown, too. I live uptown, but what the hell? I mean, it'd be nice having company, you know? I mean, I hate driving alone.
Yeah? The reason the picture has got an abstract structure to it is because it was supposed to be it was conceived originally as the working of somebody's mind and free association. So we flashed forward and backwards and parallel, because that's the way that you think normally. What you could do, I mean, and hit with a certain amount of times, if you did a 12 or 15 scenes from a relationship in chronological order, and it made sense. You met a woman, and you fell in love, and you lived together and then broke up. You could conceivably simply shuffle those, just throw the scenes up in the air and scramble them in any order, and a certain amount of times you'd get an order that was interesting and would work, because there is a full story there, and audiences get with it and respond very well to out-of-sequence order. It keeps them more live, it keeps them more awake, you know, not to go in chronology. All along the line, there have been a lot of people who've had very different criticisms of my films. I mean, people will tell me that they hated Bananas and Take the Money and Run, but liked Annie Hall and Play It Again, Sam, because they're more story-oriented. Others will tell me that they hated those two films because they thought that they're just weak and uninteresting, and the real funny films are Sleeper and Bananas and Take the Money and Run. Some people will tell me they don't like Love and Death because it was depressing to them. Someone else will love that but not love. So I found that it was a mistake ever to try and learn anything from anyone, and to simply do what you do, because there's an enormous audience out there, and you'll never get two people to agree on anything, and it's meaningless to even think about it. You just go crazy. And this was a position I arrived at accidentally, just from people volunteering their likes and dislikes. So, you know, I just sort of do what appeals to me at the moment and hope that there's enough people that will like it. What's important to an artist, I think, is that he fails a certain amount of the times, because, you know, whenever you look at the great artists in any field, they have a enormous amount of failures as well as successes, whereas the non-artists get into that terrible trap where they are constantly not risking, because they want to have hits all the time. They want to have hit films or hit plays, or, you know, and you can't do that. You have to, what I would like to do is do some serious things, some experimental things, and fail with them. You know, I mean, I'd like to succeed with them, but be willing to fail with them is what I really mean, and not protect myself, you know, not go with my strength all the time, because then you never find out anything about yourself, you never learn anything, and you never grow.